According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, there isn't enough affordable housing for lower income renters in most cities.
The Canadian housing market does have excessive house prices relative to incomes.
The encampment protocol that City Hall proposed, they say that it is a temporary measure until they can create enough housing supply to meet demand.
The high cost of housing has left the city in danger of losing many talented, younger people who work here.
Backlog of nearly 500 units across Hamilton.
You can't just snap your fingers and suddenly there's tens of thousands of new housing units built.
Critics also argue Canada's current housing crisis shouldn't have come as a surprise. Housing starts simply haven't kept up with population growth.
So-called renovictions saw a huge jump in some regions. In Hamilton, Ontario, they increased nearly 1,000% between 2017 and 2022. More than half of evictions are due to landlord factors. That includes landlords taking over units, selling the property, or evicting existing tenants for renovations or major repairs. With the cost of rent skyrocketing and they're building up for sale, residents of 272 Caroline Street South are forming a co-op with the intent to purchase the property and manage it themselves.
My name is James Reynolds, been a resident of 272, 280 Caroline Street South for 30 plus years. I kind of consider this my building because I do most of the maintenance around here. I'm going to be tooting my own horn here, but every time somebody comes by and I'm out there gardening, I get a compliment on the garden.
My name is Emily. I've lived in Hamilton all my life, and I've volunteered as a tenant organizer in different buildings across the city over the years. I'm also a housing researcher, and I've studied urban planning.
My name is Fran, and this is Jacob.
We are originally from Ottawa. We moved here because Fran was starting a master's at McMaster.
I'm Keisha. I am from the beautiful island of Barbados. I moved to Canada in 2020. Initially, I lived in Scarborough, but I got a job over here in Hamilton, so I had to move.
I'm Marie Cloutier, and I live here since 1976. And I really love it, and I like the neighborhood.
What I love about this community is that it's really central. We're close to downtown and we're close to everything that we really need, but it's still really quiet and it's not too busy.
And we got the park. If I want to go and sit in the park, I go to that little park on Durand. And when my grandchildren used to come, I used to bring them there.
It reminded me of, like the Gilmore Girls, that show. And I just loved how cute everything was. And I don't know, I guess it's what the brochures of Canada advertise.
It's also one of the densest neighborhoods in the city in terms of the number of large apartment buildings and the number of renters who live here. So it's a working class neighborhood and it's an exciting place to live because you meet all different kinds of people. In December 2022, I learned that the landlord had listed the building for sale. I hadn't lived here even a year at that point.
When I first heard that the building was going up for sale, I was really shocked because it just came out of the blue.
I had just kind of felt like I had started to get settled here, and then it just felt like that rug had been pulled out from under me.
And I was a little bit annoyed too, to be honest with you, because I thought the landlord would have at least, told me or warned me or said something.
The building's previous owner never told us as residents that the building had been put up for sale. We actually learned about it from some of our neighbors who took it upon themselves to put up bulletins and flyers letting us know that they had seen the listing online.
We knew that any investment company that purchased the building at the price that the landlord had listed it for would certainly try to push us all out.
We were concerned for ourselves in terms of how this would affect our living situation, but also certainly for other people within the building who had been living here for a long time.
How are they gonna navigate a world where like their rent's going up by like it's doubling or it's tripling? Like I really was concerned about that.
I would be devastated. I've been here 30 plus years. I'm 76 years old. I'm on a fixed income. And where the hell am I going to find a place?
Where am I gonna go? Because you hear so many stories like, oh, they give her 6 months and you had to move. And at my age, it's hard because the people gonna say, she's so old. Why should we rent it to her, you know?
I think it would be cheaper for me to go to Canadian Tire, rent a tent, and join those people down on City Hall. I really believe that.
When me and my neighbors found out that the building had been put up for sale, we quickly organized our tenant association and started talking together about our different options.
We wanted to participate to any degree possible in identifying next steps that could prevent people from being renovicted, or that could just preserve an affordable living situation for the community of people already living here.
Nearly everybody in the building wanted to help out however they could, in whatever way they could. I really thought it was like rare.
So we definitely learned what our rights are as tenants to defend ourselves against rent increases and threats of eviction, and prepared to fight back against any attempts to push people out. But we also started exploring other options, and we talked to some nice people from the Golden Horseshoe Co-operative Housing Federation and the Cooperative Housing Federation of Canada about the possibility of trying to buy the building ourselves and converting it into a nonprofit rental co-op.
My name is Amina Dib, and I'm the Senior Manager of Government Relations at the Cooperative Housing Federation of Canada.
My name is Caroline Chapman. I'm a Program Manager of Co-op and Planning Services in the Ontario region.
My name's Doug Sider, and I'm the Executive Director at the Golden Horseshoe Cooperative Housing Federation.
CHF Canada is the national voice for the cooperative housing community. Across Canada, we have about 2,200 co-ops, which amounts to about 250,000 homes for Canadians.
We're here to provide resources and advocate on behalf of our members. And so, getting us involved early on and keeping us in the loop, as Caroline Street did, is super important.
Co-op housing as a rental model is a way to develop communities by empowering the people who live there. There's a reason that all of us are involved in this sector because we believe in it.
I was talking with my granddaughter and she said, Grandma, that's the best thing. She said she got friends who live in the co-op and they got no problem.
Affordability and housing security are kind of the main benefits of this model. As members of a co-op, we also have voting rights.
So decisions are made together as a group for the betterment of the entire community.
And any surplus after operating costs and loan payments goes right back into improving our building.
Let's face it, if you are an owner of an apartment building and you don't live in the apartment building, sure, you're going to want to run it as cheaply as you can so you can make a profit. But we will own the building. We will take care of the maintenance.
We begin in Hamilton, where a group of tenants are taking action to protect themselves from rent hikes or redevelopment.
I support the idea of what these guys are trying to do, but at the end of the day, it's all about business.
Andrew Robertson is the current owner and says he and the tenants have a conditional sale agreement with inspections and due diligence work underway.
When the co-op and the landlord met, he wanted me to kind of back him up in these negotiations. Well, he was putting me, number one, between a rock and a hard place, because I'm living with the co-op people. And wasn't going to lie for him.
All my life, I've been a renter, and I pay my rent, and in exchange, the landlords are responsible for taking care of the building and repairing things when there are issues. Through this process, we've learned a lot about the building where we live and how it functions.
The building does need repairs, but of course he won't admit to that. Just like I understand that he doesn't believe in our engineering report.
Back in December, we learned our landlord, Andrew Robertson, had put our home up for sale. Given that the building is 90 years old, we knew it would need some work. However, we were shocked at the state of neglect and the cost of capital repairs that are overdue. We are determined to establish the co-op in a financially responsible manner, with sufficient funds available to make repairs to keep our homes safe and functional. It is worth pointing out, Andrew Robertson purchased this building for $975,000 in 2008. He stands to walk away from this sale with at least $3.5 million in profit. These are profits that come from our rents, from our wages, from our pensions, from our years of hard work. Our amended offer to Andrew Robertson is reasonable and fair market value.
There are a lot of working class people in this city that are watching, that are listening, that are ready to get behind you on this. And we want you to know that you're not alone in this, that this will stand, hopefully, as a marker for a lot of groups going forward, being able to say, what they did, we can do too. So stand strong, everyone. Take care.
The building's landlord is Andrew Robertson. He declined to go on camera, but told CHCH News today that he's disappointed that the tenants have publicized and, quote, made a spectacle out of what he says should be a private negotiation.
We tried to, have a reasonable conversation and negotiate a reduction on the price, just like any other purchaser of an apartment building would do. But he was obstinate and refused to engage with us in a sincere way. So we had to draw upon our community here in Hamilton to see what kind of advice we could get and who we could reach out to.
My name is Steve DeMano. I'm a senior account manager for the commercial banking team here at First Ontario Credit Union.
I'm Huda Al-Assad. I'm an investment analyst at Newmarket Funds.
First Ontario worked closely with the Caroline Street Co-op Association to obtain the best financing terms with the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. These favorable financing terms include amortization periods of up to 50 years, lower interest rates, and higher loan amounts.
Newmarket Funds help the Caroline Street Co-op with financial support, and also we help them build capacity to acquire the property.
To be completely honest, when it comes to Caroline Street Co-op, we didn't do a whole lot. They did all the performers, they had the engineering studies done, and the funding feasibility studies done. Basically, our part in the plan was simply to encourage and provide a little bit of education, maybe some contacts.
In this project, the Caroline Street Co-op really ran the show, and we were just there to assist them throughout the process. They had the chance to actually acquire their own building and kind of operate it, and they're the ones living in it. So we've never worked on anything like that before.
We also worked with the City of Hamilton to, come up with a plan.
My name is Cameron Kretsch. I'm Ward 2 City Councillor representing downtown Hamilton. We were contacted by people organizing the building and asked us if we could find a way to help. And so our role was trying to listen, firstly, what are the things we could do? Ward 2 has area rated funds, and so we work with staff to figure out, well, how can we use some of the funds that are sitting here to put them back in the community? And so also just connecting folks organizing to city staff, try and get them to see what they can do in terms of rent geared to income subsidies, operating subsidies, that kind of thing.
I remember we had to go down to City Hall and make a presentation and pretty much explain like what co-ops were to the councillors there.
So there are two types of co-ops, equity co-ops and nonprofit rental co-ops. Equity co-ops function like a condominium. We are proposing a different and more common type of co-op, a non-profit rental co-op.
There was even there like quite a bit of misunderstanding about like this model, but once we started to explain it, they were really 100% behind it.
We received a small amount towards our down payment, as well as our capital reserve fund and an ongoing rent supplement program for eligible low-income households.
Ward 2 is lucky we have more than a handful of co-ops here, and every co-op I visited, everyone I've talked to living there has really talked about how great the experience has been and how great it is to be there. And so the big takeaways from me are that we need to be supporting as many of these as possible.
My name is Jessica Cabana. I currently live in Milton Park. We're about in a 6 blocks radius in downtown plateau of Montreal, so it's a pretty nice neighborhood to be in. Today, it has 15 co-ops, 6 nonprofits, and an organization overviewing some commercial spaces, the SDC, the Société de Développement Communautaire. We have right now 12 commercial spaces. Most of them are underneath different cooperatives or tied to a building that is part of a co-op. The members of each co-op decide who it's leased to and whatnot whenever there's a vacant space. We also have like 2 little back alleyways that we can do different activities in. We don't have to ask for permits, and we have a lot of autonomy over. Every year we have La Fête des Voisins, like the neighborhood party. So we just go in a back alley, put chairs and tables very, very long for about 1,000 people. And we have events and festivals. And then we have the CMP, it's kind of the equivalent of a land trust. It's a syndicate of co-proprietorship. So we have seats from all the co-ops and all the nonprofits at our meetings. A lot of the people that originally founded Milton Park are still around, which is like a beautiful luxury to have. This also means that we have like a lot of population that's older. And so these are some of the things that we're facing now. Like, how do we make sure to properly take care of the elderly? Each co-op and nonprofit have like their own processes of integrating new members. And then you have these committees, and the committees are very, very active. And that's what makes it work in a decentralized way. You know, it becomes an upside down pyramid where the most people have the most power. Then you have the committees that are really, really active, and it goes to the board and then the president. When we think about, you know, the working class, everybody gets to pay rent. And then if we can choose who we pay rent to, if it's to ourselves and being able to manage the buildings, this is a super empowering, like, potential opening that a lot of people don't even know exists. They don't even think it's possible.
My name is William MacArthur. I am a teacher with the Hamilton School Board. I've lived in this building, this unit, since February 2024, so I'm one of the newer tenants. So I'm very lucky to have came in right at the perfect time. Yeah, got lucky.
Right now, things seem to be going fine. Everything seems to be going our way. I think we're going to accomplish more in this building than a landlord ever would.
These last few months, I've been very busy with creating the bylaws and making all those things. We've got over the hard part, and now all the stress that we're feeling is a good part. And it's a good part, like, okay, we're getting things set up.
We had to incorporate, we had to, figure out what kind of committees we wanted to have to manage the operations of the building. We have a finance committee, a maintenance committee, an education committee, a membership committee, a social committee, and together we all chip in and we contribute what we can to make the co-op work.
Now, because of my age and all that, the co-op is saying, okay, we're going to start getting together and we're going to do like a rotational thing with the chores, the cutting of the lawn, for instance. the snow blowing, which is great, because like I am getting on in age.
I think one of the highlights of this process has been organizing our first annual general meeting. We were kind of at the end of the finish line, and it was really nice to have everyone come together and really start talking about how we want this co-op to operate, rather than the stress of like, will this co-op work? Will we be able to purchase the building?
Someone nominated me to be part of the board, and I was lucky enough to be elected as part of the board, and I was made the treasurer, which has been an exciting role, even though it usually ends up being long meetings, and you usually leave those meetings, you're like, oh gosh, there's so much to do.
To move on to like the organizational aspect of it and how we want it to run day by day, that part has been the most rewarding and the most exciting.
The process that we went through as tenants was certainly not a conventional one. It's not one that you see happening a lot, and there were a lot of moments where it looked like it just wasn't going to happen. It looked like we had used up every possible avenue.
It took a huge sacrifice for a lot of people to get us to this point where we are today. It was like a lot of long nights and a lot of early mornings, like getting everything together.
It's been really rewarding being a part of this process, and I'm amazed at what we were able to accomplish.
I'm very proud of my neighbors. I love my neighbors. And with this co-op thing, I find that we are really becoming a close family.
Before the tenant association formed, I didn't know many of my neighbors, and I didn't have a close relationship with any of my neighbors. But through this process, I've come to know everybody in the building and become really good friends with people.
And I would say that through those moments where it looked like things weren't going to happen with the co-op, or where it was just really hard and difficult, it was those friendships that gave us the strength and the motivation to keep going, to try and find solutions.
Everybody has different skills that they bring to the table and different life experiences. And we've all contributed to this process of trying to set up the co-op.
It has brought the people of this building together.
People like our neighbors, our members of our community, very, very supportive about this model. Even friends I have, when I tell them about it, really interested.
We've had great response from the Hamilton community. I think the idea resonates with renters across the city who have, had the same fears about being pushed out by their landlord and wanting secure, long-term homes.
The private market should never be given the opportunity to determine what rent costs are. But that is what has happened for 35 years. And that's because our governments haven't been involved in funding affordable housing in any meaningful way.
We need to have many different kinds of housing. We can't just keep going down a road hoping that private developers will solve the problem.
I think that this model of acquiring an apartment building and converting it into a co-op could easily be scaled up and replicated across Hamilton.
In the last term of council at staff's recommendation put together something called a housing secretariat and started this idea of a housing sustainability and investment roadmap. And part of that is an acquisition fund. And so the goal is to try and purchase buildings when they come up for sale, keep them affordable or make them affordable. Hopefully co-op led where they can be.
The City of Hamilton's staff have come out with reports recently that compare the cost of building a new social housing unit, $500,000, $600,000 a unit, versus the cost of acquiring an existing apartment building, $150,000 to $250,000 a unit. So that's less than half.
It is crucial that the City of Hamilton step up and carry through with what they've said their plan is going to be.
Imagine if an acquisition strategy had been in place 10 years ago in Hamilton. We would have stopped thousands of people from being displaced and facing rent hikes and, many hundreds from becoming homeless.
We are working on our vision of co-op housing for all. We have designed a solution that is cost-effective, fast, scalable, and flexible. We really want to see co-op housing be made available to Canadians who want to accept the responsibility and benefits of membership in a co-op.
There is a rental acquisition program that is in the pipeline with the federal government.
Funds like the $1.5 billion available through the Canada Rental Protection Fund provide significant opportunities for tenant-led cooperatives to acquire buildings.
Any grants from governments or municipalities would go a long way in supporting the cooperative network and, helping solve the affordability crisis.
Also, without these funds, co-ops will struggle to show an equity component when trying to secure financing from commercial mortgage providers. It actually might be impossible to secure financing without these funds.
If there is to be a new affordable future, then it will be everyday people who make it happen. Whether it's through a political process and convincing governments to actually fund affordable housing, or actually organizing in groups like Caroline Street Co-op to take power in their own hands and make things happen.
Testing. Okay, wonderful. Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. My name is Jake, and this is Fran. Unit 7, that's Caroline Street Housing Cooperative. We are so grateful for all of you being here today. This has been a very long journey. We're really appreciating getting to celebrate all of that with you.
If a building with only 21 units of people who all have jobs and responsibilities outside of this building can jump through all the hoops required, then I don't see why other buildings can't do the same thing.
I would recommend that other tenant groups reach out to our group and to other co-op organizations to see what their options are and how we can support.
Pair up with existing co-ops so you can kind of have a sister org that's supporting you in some way, shape, or another throughout your development.
It's not easy, and I don't think anyone should go in it being like, this is gonna be a walk in the park, but I think it's worth it.
Don't give up. Just keep fighting and keep trying, and it's definitely worth it in the end.
If your building goes up for sale, you need to act quickly. You need to get organized, you need to get your ducks in a row. You're gonna need some money to put down for a deposit. If there's a community foundation that might have grants or loans available, have these conversations early. You're gonna need a lawyer to help you draft an agreement of purchase and sale. And you're gonna need, a few $1,000s to pay for these initial studies. Things like an appraisal, things like a building condition assessment. These are reports that a bank or credit union will require before they consider you for a mortgage.
And I would also say remain in touch with other stakeholders and other partners within the sector.
Reaching out to a lender, preferably a credit union, as early as possible. They can help guide you with what's required in terms of documentation, whether it's a perfect fit for the CMHC program, any obstacles, are there any other funding opportunities.
Build a thorough business plan so that you can have a good understanding of what renovations need to take place after you've acquired the property, because you don't want to face some surprise costs after you actually own the building.
Be organized and be committed to the time that it might take. It's not an easy process, and I think groups have to be prepared for the long haul and take advantage of the information that's out there and then find the funding.
I think right now it's a pretty important time for grassroots organizing because there's so much pressure right now around housing.
My best piece of advice for those who would think about organizing, don't let anyone tell you you can't. Make the determination yourself that you will.
Start looking at different modes of engagement. Even if it's just having dinner with your building, it seems so foreign almost in some of the cities, and it's something that can break down isolation. It can help people build community. It can help people develop skills. It can help kids, get in touch with others.
Remain focused on the group of people living in the building, because it's that network of people wanting to participate in their own living situation that's really going to make the drive for this.
Even if, your building isn't up for sale, you should have a tenant association in your building or with other tenants on your block. You don't have to have a perfect plan developed. Just start the conversation.
You know, these are potential conversations that people haven't had. And just opening the conversation allows for people to imagine a different world where they can actually have autonomy over their building.
Your dreams are worth pursuing, and having a future that you can control, that's worth chasing, and it's worth investing the time and effort.
Thank you.